Okay, so first thing here, I want to actually stop sharing again. I'm going to go to our website and make sure that you all are seeing where these things are stored. So I'm going to go back to share. So again, for those of you who maybe this is the first time that you're seeing this information, this is the first webinar you've been able to attend, we will be going over quite a bit of information kind of quickly that we've covered in past presentations. So I want to remind you that a lot of this information is being stored here, and it's on the Legislative Services page. And then if you go over here to the right side, Rules Ed and ECP training materials will be right here. So of course, here's your basic training materials, but the last couple of webinars and then today and going forward will be added right here. You can download the presentation or click on this link here for key takeaways. And this is what how we're trying to update our members is through these key takeaways, and we'll do it again for today. So just a reminder that this information is here for you to reference if you haven't had a chance to jump in recently. And then of course, down here is the Rules Ed training information. Okay, let's go back to our presentation. So again, for our round 3 of updates, the editing staff and adding staff update. So unfortunately, our thought was to have this updated by the end of last week. But the more that we have gone in there and looked at updates and trying to change or allow for say an athletics director, for example, to change their own staff, we're finding more issues within the programming. So more bugs kind of popped up when we were testing out this ability to allow for NAI members to add their own staff. So unfortunately, the restriction to add staff is still out there. So the process is to notify Josh Bohr in the Eligibility Center, and he will coordinate with NAIA Connect and PlayNAIA to add the new members. We're not doing anything with removing members, which is fine, because let's say you have a new FAR this year. When you go to submit a certificate, you will click on the correct FAR. So there's no longer will be an issue with having multiple FARs. All FARs will show up in a down screen, and you can click the correct or current FAR. And then at some point, we'll be able to go back in and advise you all how to remove your own staff members. So at this time, the addition of adding a staff member will be done with Josh in the Eligibility Center. And you can also email us at legislative@nai.org to update your staff members. Next up, the ability to enter a contest date prior to the start date of class. Unfortunately, this issue is still ongoing. So as I advised last week, the guidance or workaround on this piece is to put down your first date of class, especially for these sports that will have a contest before your first date of class, is to put down August 1 or August 5th, however you want to do it, as the first date of class, so that any competition after that will be included. This is not a violation of the bylaws, and it'll just ensure that you're able to create a certificate and run it for those students that might be, or for the sports that might have a competition before the start date of class. And I can also, Morgan and myself can go in and change the start date of class if you've already created a roster and you find that this issue is going to occur. So Morgan and I can also go in and manually change that as well. But as you're creating the certificates, this is going to be something that you'll need to bear in mind if the competition is before the start date of class. Another still ongoing issue, students showing in PlayNAIA but are not transferring to the NAIA Connect. So the issue might be that we do know the student has a PlayNAIA eligible decision, and they're not showing in your shortlist under NAIA Connect. It is what we're doing right now is called a manual sync. And so you'll need to email legislative@nai.org with just the student's ECID number is totally fine. And we're really addressing this within the next couple of hours. It's a very quick turnaround. So as long as you email us the student's ECID number and just tell us, we're seeing this in PlayNAIA, but not seeing it on NAIA Connect, we can do a quick manual sync, push that student over to NAIA Connect, and then they will show up in the unassigned box. So hopefully we'll see, again, this tech issue fixed relatively quickly. On a good note, our most urgent tech fixes, the ones that show that students were in the eligible section when they do not have an EC decision, we have found that to be resolved, hopefully, when we have tested this ourselves. So again, if you see any issues, please give us a call or shoot us an email if something has not been resolved. But from our testing, we have gotten this resolved. So good news here that students who may be eligible, or sorry, may not have an EC decision, or should not be in the eligible section of your roster section. The next still ongoing tech issue is the on hold piece. And so again, we're very sorry with this one. We understand this is a big way of the processing for our student athletes, and many of our members have talked about the importance to allow for one group, like a registrar, to enter in terms of attendance, click the student as saved or on hold, and then pass off the information to the next person. Unfortunately, right now we're seeing the bugs with placing a student on hold and putting in partial information. The system is requesting that all information is added. So we're still working on this piece and hope to get a resolution rather soon. We're seeing some of this stuff, hopefully getting resolved in the next couple of weeks. But again, this issue is still ongoing, and we'll see what we can do to identify the root issue. This one has been resolved. Another good news, especially with football rosters, and that is the ability to view football rosters and also removing students on football rosters. And I say football rosters because that's typically the ones with more than 100 athletes. And that's where this bug had lived, was displaying 100 or more athletes on a roster or removing students from a roster. This has been resolved, so let us know if you have any issues, but you should be able to view all 100 student athletes or more on your roster and be able to remove students on large rosters as well. Before we get into next phase updates, I want to let you know just really quickly, right before this session started, we identified a new issue. We've had an example where a institution had created a certificate, but they had to reject the certificate because they needed to make a change. But when they went in to the student roster, the sport roster, where they wanted to make edits to a student's profile, that student's profile was still grayed out because they technically had been certified. So we just identified this right before the session started, didn't have a chance to add it to the presentation, but just know that we are identifying that, and we'll push that into hopefully correction mode as soon as possible, because we know that that's going to be an issue if you are certifying and need to reject a certificate. It's not allowing, we see from ourselves, it's not allowing for you to make the corrections. So we'll get that going as soon as possible to hopefully get that resolved rather soon. Okay, so we'll add that into the updates. The next phase updates, this is still the same from last week. So we're keeping an eye on these, as well as the clearly marking the certificates have been submitted after the date of first competition, so that we know if a certificate has been submitted late. Export ideas, identifying a roster as a varsity or JV roster, printable roster views, and requests for an ineligible student athlete worksheet. Again, these are just things that we're keeping an eye on, and we will continue to keep this on the next phase of enhancements if possible. Okay. Again, repeat reminders and best practices. As I showed at the beginning of this presentation, here's where you can find our training materials and our forms as well. So again, we did not build in the certificate of clearance option in this NAIA Connect, because we've heard from our members that they prefer to utilize their own ways of creating their certificate of clearance, utilizing their own student database to create a certificate of clearance. So we do have under the legislative forms page, the eligibility certificate forms, there's supplemental materials. And under that, there's a certificate of clearance. That's just a PDF form. That is an idea of how to utilize the certificate of clearance if you need one. Otherwise, we've relied on Marsha Lashley a lot to help us understand what they do at Missouri Valley. And there's some other examples out there as well. So you can create your own certificate of clearance if you wish from your own student database. The transfer player eligibility statement, the supplemental form has been updated to reflect the NAIA Connect form. And that way you can work with the student athlete, get their signature on a separate form, and again, keep that internally for your records. The competitive experience review, there's also another form online as well to utilize if you want to utilize a paper option, PDF option, and in addition to anything you put on the student's profile in ECP. And the NAIA tracer is there under legislative forms as an optional form that can be used to send to previous athletics or previous associations, previous schools to get their seasons, get a student seasons of competition recorded. Okay. Again, the roster view, we talked about that. Rules education, not a ton to update. As we shared this past couple of weeks, due to the issues of adding new members, new staff members, to the inability for an athletics director to add their own staff members, we have extended the deadline to complete all courses by October 1. And I think I'll share it here in a bit. Yeah. So first I'll share right now, the report is now live for athletic directors and actually all staff members who wish to do this have the access to look at the reports. And as you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner, if you go to reports and then you see either recent or you can view all reports, the report name is accounts with contact and learning plan. And that provides the long list of all of the names of your staff members and what they have completed and the progress number for that. So you will be able to, if you're a compliance officer and wants to look at report back to your athletics director, you can find this and this information and provide it back to your athletics director. And of course, athletic directors can do this, and it's going to be the responsibility of the athletics director to ensure that all staff members have completed their required course by October 1st. And again, the required course versus optional, the blue ones are just different modules that are options. They are built together to basically make the full athletics director for a new athletics director course. But the red ones, you do not have to do all red ones. You just do the red course that is applicable to you. If you were at your NAIA institution this past year, then you are returning this year, you would do the returning members training course. If you're brand new, then you would do whatever red course that would pertain to you. Okay, so we will continue this weekly Zoom session until we have been able to identify and resolve these major issues. So we will do a session next Tuesday at noon. I'll make sure that we have updated the ECP link and the make sure that everybody is aware of Tuesday, August 6th at noon. So we'll continue on having these discussions, and I will go ahead and stop sharing and open it up for any questions you all might have. So we have a question: should we only check the transfer box if the student transferred in this semester? So a transfer, yes, according to our definitions, a transfer is any student who has not previously identified at your institution. However, if this is the very first time that you are certifying the student athlete since they've transferred, you do need to do the form itself to make sure. So for instance, we see this a lot with baseball players in the spring. They may have transferred into the fall and they're new. And so they want to transfer in, and you do not certify them maybe until the springtime. You'll need to make sure that you do the transfer player eligibility statement. Otherwise, after a period of time, they're no longer a transfer student. Question on, is there a way to lock the alphabetical order in the roster? I will make a note of that for our tech people to see if that is an option that we can implement. I understand what you're looking at, and I see a lot of thumbs up with this one. So it's the ability to filter or sort your roster team. So we'll make sure, Morgan, if you can take out that message, and we'll make a note to that as well. Okay, so John's question, is it possible to copy rosters from one semester to the next? I believe so. I believe there will be a way to, the roster selection will be quicker moving into terms every term, because now you've locked in students who have been certified under this sport. I can get with our IT team. Scott, if you want to go ahead and take a stab at that.
Yeah, let me jump in really quick there. So when you go into your rosters, you're going to see three kind of boxes when you go to add members. One of those is assigned students. So the idea is that if they were on a roster prior to the one that you're trying to create, they would be in that assigned students list. So it's not that you're going to be able to like say, hey, I want to make a copy of this roster and have everybody get added, but you'll be able to go into that list and select all the students that you want to add from that list, and then they'll go into your roster. So it won't be like short list. There'll still be a separate bucket. It'll be people who were on a roster previously.
Yeah, awesome. So this is a good question. And Scott, I might see if you could help answer this one. I'm not sure if we've built this option in yet. We have a question about, I've created a certificate just to test things out. How can we go about delete certificates if we do not intend to use that certificate officially? That's a good question. I don't know if we have the ability to do that. What do you think?
Yeah, there's no ability to delete the certificates. So if you have one that you were using for testing and you need it removed, then be sure and let us know.
Okay, we'll see what we can do internally on that, and also make a note for future reference on it. We have a question, and this is a little bit more of a process. And I would also open this up to other members on the Zoom call who may have a best practice for this. But we had a question for one of our members: who should be responsible for posting all the information? I worry about leaving an athlete off of the roster. Melissa, I bet you're kind of thinking about process and making sure we have all of the students included in the roster. I know just from some best practices that were shared with me is that we ask for, not we, but members at our schools ask coaches to bring forward their full roster, maybe in an Excel or Word document form. So anybody else want to jump in with that best practice to ensure we're not leaving any student athletes off of the roster?
Brenda, this is Marcia. I keep a separate spreadsheet, kind of a worksheet that's shared with the coaches. And as I clear somebody in the system, then I kind of code them as cleared. But then before the coach signs off, it's their responsibility to make sure everyone that they're going to play that day or the next contest is listed, because it can happen.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I got a pretty good direct message question, and it was, will the semester, trimester, quarter converter be added onto the student user page? And it is on there. You just have to click the tooltip by the total terms of attendance, including current, and then it will show you the chart. In the old ECP, it said, click here to see the converter, but if you just click the tooltip, you'll find the conversion chart.
Okay. Another question: do coaches still need to complete the character-driven coaches training? Yes, that is still in place. That is also included in the same area that you have seen the other trainings. The trainings that you see for the rules education is really legislative services driven. And then the other piece is the character training for new coaches that they are required to complete within 60 days of hire. That is still under our Sarah Eckinger in student athlete. I forgot the full name of their department. I'm sorry for Sarah, but that is still her area. If you have questions, I can point you in the direction of Sarah. But yes, character-driven coaching training is still a requirement. Question about the ineligible roster: when will that be available? Again, right now, the best workaround is to look at the roster itself. You can do a print version of the roster to see your eligible students, your in-progress students, and ineligible students. I recognize that that's not providing the best option to understand why the student is ineligible unless you go in and click specifically for the student's information. So at this time, it's still something that we have pinpointed as a possible future enhancement. but it's not something that we are looking to incorporate right now since we have other fires that we're working to resolve. As I shared earlier with some of these that are way more important, unfortunately. So we'll try to get the ineligible certificate or ineligible worksheet available at some point, maybe this fall. Okay. Making sure I've addressed any. Okay. Yeah, we've gotten a lot of messages about this, is that when you're putting in information for a student and you want to tab through to the next box, it tabs through the info icon or the info button. And unfortunately, there's just nothing that we can do about it. We've asked the programmers early on during the beta testing. We identified that that was an issue or a hiccup, and they basically said there's nothing that they can do about that. So unfortunately, we'll have to continue to keep tabbing through those info pieces and we'll keep that out there for them, but I'm not sure if there's much we can do about that. If anybody's emailed or put me a direct message that I may not see this, please email me after the presentation at legislative@nai.org so I can make sure that we get back to it. Yeah, there was another question about, is there a way to go from the one athlete to the next athlete without going back to the full roster? We understand extra times and clicks, and I think unfortunately there's not a way to do that. And we will, pinpoint that for future reference, but not sure how much we can do to correct that. Anybody else have any questions that you want to come forward with the group? There was a question that we have a new FAR amongst us, so welcome the new FAR from Joe, and he asked about the rules education training. The title for FARs, for new FARs, is going to be under new education training for administrative support, I believe. It's the one for administrators. So that one is the one that's geared towards FARs, registrars, even compliance officers. If you wish to look into that one, it's the new rules ed training for supporting administrators. Okay, I think we've covered most of these questions. Let me see. I'm going to go to the bottom. So question about explain how to go about getting a list of students before the certificate is created. So the difference is, Miriam, for you, the list of students before the certificate is created. It will just be the roster view of that is the list of students before the certificate is created. But once you start adding students to a certificate, there is a way to do a details export that exports everything into an Excel sheet. That way you can go in and double check the data for the proposed eligibility certificate before it is sent on to the 4 signers. So if you have questions on how that looks, I can do a quick screen record of from your vantage point and send that to you. If you want to email me, legislative@nai.org, and we can walk you through that. Yeah, so again, the roster view, simply I would do a page print view for the roster view if you just want to look at your roster to double check every student is on there. And then once you go to create the certificates, you will add your eligible students to the certificate, and then under details view, there is a way to export the certificate. So again, those that wonder how that looks specifically under your view, I'm happy to do a quick screen record and send that to you so you can kind of follow along with me. But since we are on a public presentation, I don't want to jump into somebody's ECP due to privacy purposes. So I'm happy to walk you through that. For Sam's question, new coaches need to be added to NAIA Connect before they can do the character-driven coaching course. That is correct. Anybody that is a new coach, a new member, you can send that to myself or Josh Bohr to add in that person. And that way, then they can get the access. There is, depending on the title of the coach, if they are an assistant coach or a assistant volunteer GA, some of these people are a single sign-on registered user. And so Sam, if you want to email me, I can help you with that as well, to send you the single sign-on link versus just going in and as a normal user in logging into NAIA Connect. Okay, Bridget, we're going to take, Bridget, email us at legislative@nai.org. She found an issue with some students having yes under the 48 hours in major and went back and that box was not checked. Bridget, if you can send that to us at legislative@nai.org, we'll make a note and jump in to look at that as well to see if that is a tech issue we need to address. Okay. Last couple of seconds to submit any questions you may have. Thank you so much, everyone, for your patience. We understand with all kinds of tech updates and these hiccups that occur and the pressure of school starting here very soon. We understand that this is a stressful time, so please bear with us as we move forward with these updates. On another note, the handbook, the new handbook will be released on Thursday, August 1st. It's released August 1st of every year. So you will see the handbook updated. And I've talked a little bit about this in the past, but there's going to be a new online version, kind of like an online cheat sheet for you all. Hopefully you'll see that in the next couple of weeks. And I'll be sure to unveil that here at one of our Tuesday sessions. Okay. I think that's it. You'll see this recording posted online again, and we'll keep you guys posted every Tuesday at noon until we can get much of this information hopefully resolved. Thank you so much, everyone, and we'll see you soon.